Hi students, welcome to lesson number 30, Urban Development Programs. Let's look into the introduction. After independence in 1947, India embarked on a national program of economic development and planning. Planning encompasses policies regarding various aspects of the national economy and society, which provide the framework for programs for bringing about orderly change. Urbanization is a natural outgrowth of socio-economic development in general and industrialization in particular. Unlike industrialization, development of transportation etc. is a spontaneous rather than induced phenomenon. Urbanization is often perceived as a peripheral issue by economists and planners. It is to assert that urbanization is not a trivial aspect of the process of socio-economic development in India at the present time. Let's look into the objectives. The purpose of the unit is to acquaint you with the concept of urban development. 1. The meaning of urban development, to know the urban development and policies in 5-year plans, to look into the government schemes and programs like JNNURM and others as part of urban development policies. Let's look into the meaning of urban development. Urban development refers to urbanization with its different dimensions and perceptions. Physical, that is land use change such as urban sprawl, an increase in artificial surfaces, geographical population and employment concentration, economic market, agglomeration, economies and knowledge spillovers and societal development. Urban development also refers to a system of residential expansion that creates cities. Residential areas are the primary focus of urban development. Urban development occurs by expansion into unpopulated areas and the renovation of decaying regions. Urban society is characterized by a sharp economic disparity between a small number of wealthy families and a large number of petty traders, artisans and the poor. Urban planning is necessary to reduce this disparity. Urban planning deals with the design of the built environment from the municipal or the metropolitan perspective. Let's look into the urban development in India. In India, planned cities were built from the ages of Harappan culture, but all these cities of antiquity were based on agricultural income and were built mostly because of the rise in population. Gradually, the nature of settlements or urban centers underwent a qualitative change, a transition from a locally focused, isolated, economically and socially dynamic and basically industrial or service-oriented community. Today's urban centers are the basis of economic activities. People mostly migrate to these centers to earn their livelihood. Among the migrants, some settle down and some others move on to the larger cities or towns in search of better opportunities. To improve the economic and physical infrastructure and also to provide essential services and facilities to the existing forthcoming population. The planning is essential. Urban planning is mostly concerned with the physical development process. Spatial planning plays a significant role in the identification and development of new areas. Cities have been the forefront of economic growth in the past few decades and the focal point for government's revenue earning. More than half of the gross national product originates in the urban areas. The metropolitan cities, which contribute 70% of the income tax revenue at the national level, while town and cities have become focal service center for the rural economy and have engaged as the primary location of industries. Their role in inducing and promoting modernization of agriculture is also appreciable. All this made to formulate a national policy towards the development of urban areas and to have a policy with regard to the role of urban places, small and larger, in relation to the entire settlement system. Planning Commission member M.S. Thakur suggested a national policy on urbanization in India to start with A. Satellite towns of large metropolitan cities, B. New growth centers resulting from the planned development, C. Certain other regions where with the combination of factors dispersed industrial development is already taking place and rural service centers. The national urbanization policy in India and the formation of the National Commission on Urbanization in India, which were evolved to accelerate the social and economic development process for a conducive living environment in urban India. Since independence, urbanization and urban policy was emphasized through 5-year plans. Let's take up the urbanization policy. Urbanization is a natural outgrowth of socio-economic development in general and industrialization in particular. Urbanization policy in India, which was initiated, emphasized two objectives. 1. Directing growth into a number of selected centers or growth points located in all parts of the country. 2. Integrating urban growth with development of surrounding rural areas so that the two are bound together in relation of mutual interdependence and each growth point becomes in time the nucleus of a rapidly developing growth points. The urban development policy in 5-year plans. The first 5-year plan 1951-52 to 55-56 and second 5-year plan 56-57 to 60 and 61. Plans witnessed the establishment of institutions for the study of urban problems at the national level and also for the training of manpower in this area. By the end of the first 5-year plan, several institutional and organizational building setups were started and same was instructed. The Ministry of Urban Affairs was established. The Town and Country Planning Organization was set up in 1957 for urban policy making. The second plan emphasized the need for planned development of cities and towns and also for an integrated approach to urban planning through a balanced regional development framework. The third 1961 to 62, to 65 to 66 and fourth 5-year 1969 to 70 to 73 to 74 year plans. It was turning point in urban planning history as urban policy received major attention. The important contribution of the diffusion of the idea of town planning from the center to the states. So, urban planning was to adopt regional approach. As a result, states established town planning departments to cope with the problems of urbanization within the state. The third plan recognized the role of industrialization in urban development. For this policy was aiming at establishment of new industries away from larger cities was advocated to be formulated. It is in this plan the need for urban land regulation, checking of urban land prices, financial provisions for the preparation of master plans for cities and towns in states were made. The fourth plan continued the third 5-year policy and developed plans for 72 urban areas. The urban community developed schemes were introduced in selected cities. The fifth 1974 to 75 to 78-79 and sixth 5-year 1978 to 79 to 80-81 and 84-85 year plans. Urban Land Ceiling Act was passed in 1976. Greater concern was on urbanization and urban affairs, urban problems and concern for the urban poor. The state governments were instructed to create metropolitan planning regions to take care of the growing areas outside administrative city limits. Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority in 1974 and Housing and the Urban Development Corporation in 1975 were established. The objectives of urbanization policy under 5th Five-Year Plan were 1. To augment civic services in urban centers, 2. To tackle the problems of metropolitan cities and a regional basis, 3. To promote the development of small towns, new urban centers, 4. To assist interstate projects on metropolitan projects to support industrial townships under government undertakings. 6th Five-Year Plan stressed the need to develop small, medium-sized towns less than 1 lakh population, and scheme of integrated development of small and medium towns was launched in 1979 by central government. The plan thus recognized the basic problems of towns and cities. The 7th Plan 1985 to 86 to 89 and 90 and some important institutional developments were taken which shaped the urban development and planning. This plan emphasized the industrial investment in small and medium towns to draw the population away from the larger cities. The National Commission on Urbanization submitted its report in 1988 and 65th Constitutional Amendment was introduced in Lok Sabha in 1989. This was first time to give urban local bodies a constitutional status with 3-tier federal structure which came to force in 1993. This plan focused on strengthening of municipal administration and municipal tax laws to create self-financing schemes for urban development and to improve urban basic amenities for better quality of urban life and living environment. A well-coordinated strategy for promoting development of the small and medium towns together with strategy for small and medium towns was to strengthen the organizational base of urban local bodies and to provide an appropriate investment package on the related infrastructure and employment promoting activities. This required pooling of programs of different sectors, a strategy for a sustainable and self-supporting nature of development of metropolitan cities, formed the focus of urban development strategy for the 8th Plan, an action plan to operationalize the development 8th Plan 1993-97 introduced in 1993-94, the mega city scheme covering 5 mega cities of Mumbai, Calcutta, Bangalore and Hyderabad. The infrastructural development programs for boosting employment generation in order to divert migration from the big cities to the small and medium towns. The 9th Plan 1997-98 to 2001 and 2 focused on decentralization and financial autonomy of urban local bodies. A program called Swarna Jayanti Sahari Rozgar Yojana SJSRY in 1997 with 2 sub-plans were introduced. 1. The Urban Self-Employment Program and 2. Urban Wage Employment Program. They are the Urban Poverty Reduction and Employment. In 2013, SJSRY was revamped as National Urban Livelihood Mission by central government. The 10th Plan 2002 and 207 accepted the fact that urbanization played an important role in accelerating the economic growth in 1980s and 1990s, which resulted in economic liberation, and also stressed that without strengthening the urban local bodies, the goal of urbanization cannot be achieved. The 11th Plan 2007 and 2012 introduced some innovative modifications through capacity building, increasing efficiency and productivity of the cities, using technology as a tool for rapid urbanization. In this plan, a major program in 2005, the JNNURM, Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, was launched by central government and integrated development of urban infrastructure and services at the beginning in 63 cities likewise. This program continued further and covered more number of cities. The Rajiv Awas Yojana was launched in 2011 for removal of slums. it went with Slum Free India as pilot project for 2 years. Now it got extended till 2022. The 12th 5-year plan 2012 to 2017 went with consolidating JNNURM, conceived its role in urban reforms. The major role played by JNNURM is conceived very important in urban reforms. The functioning of JNNURM is a massive city modernization scheme launched by the Government of India under Ministry of Urban Development. It envisaged a total investment of $20 billion over 7 years. The scheme was launched on 3rd December 2005 as a program meant to improve the quality of life and infrastructure in the cities. It was launched in 2005 for a 7-year period to encourage cities to initiate steps for bringing phased improvements in their civic services level. Initially, the term of this scheme was till April 2012, but got extended till March 31, 2014. The objectives of the scheme: A. Focuses relating to infrastructural services in the context of integrated development is to be covered under the mission. B. Efficient and increase self-sustaining capabilities of cities as per the sector proving infrastructural services by securing the linkages between asset creation and assets management. C. Planned development of identifies cities including peri-urban areas, outgrowths, urban corridors and so on, so that urbanization can take place in dispersed manner. D. Increase in delivery of civic amenities and provision of utilities with emphasis on universal access to urban poor. The provision of basic services to the urban poor, including security of tenure at affordable prices, improved housing, water supply and sanitation, and ensuring delivery of other existing universal services of the government for education, health and social security. This scheme was a big mission which relates primarily to development in the context of urban conglomerates, productive, efficient, equitable and responsive cities by a strategy of upgrading the social and economic infrastructures in cities. The provision of basic services to urban poor and wide-ranging urban sector reforms to strengthening municipal governance in accordance with the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act 1992. The duration of the mission is 7 years from December 2005. During this period, the mission sought to ensure sustainable development of participating cities. The funds are channeled through state-level agencies where grants from central and state governments are pooled and passed on as grants or loans to the cities, provided that they have prepared development strategies and that the investments identified fit within these strategies. Sub-schemes or missions in this scheme are also as follows. 1. The submission for urban infrastructure and governance administered by the Ministry of Urban Development with a focus on water supply and sanitation, solid waste management, urban transport and redevelopment of old city areas. 2. The basic services to the urban poor administered by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty alleviation with focus on integrated development of slums. 3. Urban infrastructure development scheme for small and medium towns, administered by the Ministry of Urban Development with a focus on subsuming the schemes of integrated development of small and medium towns and accelerated urban water supply program, which aim at planned urban infrastructural improvement in towns and cities under its purview. 4. Integrated housing and slum development program administered by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty alleviation was envisaged and brought into effect in 1993-94 in accordance with providing the entire population with safe and adequate water supply facilities. The program is implemented in towns with population less than 20,000 as per 1991 census. The Swarna Jayanti Sahari Rozgar Yojana SJSRY, which subsumed the earlier 3 urban poverty alleviation programs, Nehru Rozgar Yojana NRY, Urban Basic Services for the Poor UBSP, and Prime Minister's Integrated Urban Poverty Alleviation Program came into operation from December 1997. It seeks to provide employment to the urban unemployed or underemployed poor living below the poverty line and educated up to 9th standard through encouraging them to set up self-employment ventures or providing them wage employment. The scheme gives special impetus to empower and uplift the poor women and launched a special program, namely Development of Women and Children in Urban Areas, under which groups of urban poor women setting up self-employment ventures eligible for subsidy up to 50% of the project cost. An allocation of rupees 181 crore was provided in 1999-2000. All these programs constituted the achievements of the special anti-poverty programs. The Smart City Project. It was a project undertaken for 100 smart cities as satellite towns of larger cities and modernizing the existing mid-sized cities in the budget 2014. A smart city can be understood as a city that incorporates information and communication technologies to enhance the quality and performance of urban services such as energy, transportation and utilities in order to reduce the resource consumption, wastage and overall cost. A smart city is an urban area that uses different types of electronic internet of things sensors to collect data and then use insights gained from that data to manage assets, resources and services efficiently. It is also understood as a creative cyber, digital and e-governed, entrepreneurial, intelligent knowledge harnessing the power of information and communication technology. Smartness should be there with respect to governance and service delivery. The strategic components of area-based development in the smart cities are city improvement, city renewal, redevelopment and city extension, greenfield development plus a pan-city initiative in which smart solutions are applied covering larger parts of the city. The infrastructure elements in a smart city would include 1. Adequate water supply, 2. Assured electricity supply, 3. Sanitation including solid waste management, 4. Efficient urban mobility and public transport, 5. Affordable housing for the poor, 6. IT connectivity and digitalization, 7. Good governance and citizen participation, 8. Sustainable environment, 9. Safety and security of citizens, that is the women and children and elderly persons, 10. Health and education, etc. Let's look into the urban poverty. Urban poverty is manifested prominently than over all poverty situations. The slums, informal sector, increasing casualization, underdevelopment of labor, pressure on civic services, high rate of educational deprivation and health contingencies retarded the growth of physical and mental capabilities, and high rate of crime and violence are the parameters of intense poverty line. The NCU recommended some strategies. 1. Income and employment, 2. Basic resource, 3. Shelter, 4. Public distribution, 5. Social security and involvement of NGO sectors, 6. self-employment of the urban poor must be encouraged by an appropriate credit support system. 7. Production and market support should be given to the self-employed urban poor. 8. The shelter program should be used to provide employment to the urban poor. 9. Wage employment for the urban poor should be provided through a program for creation of such urban assets as water supply, drainage system, land development, etc. 10. The public distribution system should be strengthened to meet the consumption requirements. Let's sum up. In this unit, we have learnt the concept of urban development, as urban development refers to urbanization with its different dimensions and perceptions. Physical, that is the land use change such as urban sprawl and increase in artificial surfaces. Geographical, population and employment concentration. Economic, market, agglomeration, economies and knowledge spillovers and societal development. People mostly migrate to these centers to earn their livelihood. Among the migrants, some settle down and some others move on to the larger cities or towns in search of better opportunities. To improve the economic and physical infrastructure and also to provide essential services and facilities to the existing and forthcoming population. The planning is essential. Urban planning is mostly concerned with physical development. We also learnt about many schemes for urban development, which are undertaken by the policy making through 5-year plans. Some among them are the JNNURM, SSRY and Smart Cities. Thank you.